Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. Kai stood at rigid attention in the gleaming white hall of the Imperial Command Center, his battle-worn armor a stark contrast to the pristine surroundings. The summons had come without warning, direct from High Command. His fingers twitched against his thigh, the only outward sign of his unease. "Commander Kai Jiao." Admiral Ven's voice echoed through the chamber. "Your service record is impressive." The Admiral's silvery eyes scanned a holographic display. Kai remained silent, watching the man's weathered face for any hint of his true purpose. After 15 years of military service, he'd learned to read the subtle signs of command. 27 successful planetary campaigns, tactical genius in the Centauri offensive, distinguished service in the Outer Rim conflicts. Ven's thin lips curved into what might have been a smile. "The Empire has taken notice." "I serve where needed, Admiral," Kai responded, keeping his voice neutral despite the growing tension in his shoulders. "Indeed." Ven waved his hand and a new hologram materialized, the Imperial Alliance Program insignia. "You've been selected for our most prestigious initiative, a partnership program between our strongest warriors and our most valued allies." Kai's jaw tightened. He'd heard whispers about these partnerships, supposedly an honor, but something about them had always felt off. "Sir, with respect, I work better alone." "This isn't a request, Commander." Ven's voice hardened. "Your partner arrives within the hour. Report to the Hall of Oaths for the binding ceremony." The Hall of Oaths stretched before Kai like a cathedral built of starlight. Crystal pillars soared overhead, refracting the system's twin suns into countless rainbow fragments. Other warriors stood with their assigned partners, some looking uncertain, others resigned. The massive doors swung open, and Kai's breath caught. She moved like liquid grace, each step deliberate yet flowing. Her skin was a deep violet, smooth as silk and shimmering with an inner light. The formal diplomatic robes she wore did nothing to hide her perfect figure, but it was her eyes that held him, completely black, like the space between stars, yet somehow warm with humor. "Commander Kai Jiao." Her voice carried a musical lilt. "I am Princess Meridiana of the Lurian sovereignty, but please," she smiled, revealing perfect white teeth, "call me Miri." Kai bowed stiffly. "Your Highness." "Oh, none of that." She stepped closer, her eyes dancing. "We're partners now, aren't we? Unless the famous Earth warrior is afraid of a little informality." "I maintain appropriate protocols, Your Highness," Kai responded, fighting to keep his expression neutral as she circled him with predatory grace. "Protocols." She laughed, the sound like crystal chimes. "Tell me, Commander, do your protocols account for this?" Without warning, she drew a slim blade from somewhere in her robes and lunged. Kai's combat reflexes kicked in. He spun, caught her wrist, only to find himself staring into those midnight eyes from inches away. "Not bad." Miri's breath ghosted across his face. "But you telegraphed your countermove." "This isn't a game, Princess," Kai growled, still holding her wrist. "Isn't it?" She twisted free with impossible fluidity. "Everything's a game, Commander. The sooner you learn that, the better we'll work together." The binding ceremony itself was brief. An exchange of oaths, a sharing of blood, the official sealing of their partnership. Throughout it all, Miri maintained that knowing smile, as if she was party to some cosmic joke Kai couldn't grasp. Their first training session began the next morning in the Imperial Combat Center. Kai arrived early, running through his usual warm-up routine with mechanical precision. "Starting without me?" Miri's voice startled him mid-strike. She'd exchanged her formal robes for fitted combat gear that left little to the imagination. How unsporting. "Training isn't about sport," Kai replied, completing his form. It's about preparation. Is that what you tell yourself? She stretched languidly. No wonder Earth warriors are so tense. Before he could respond, she attacked. Her style was unlike anything he'd encountered. Part dance, part martial art, completely unpredictable. Where he relied on power and precision, she moved like water flowing around his defenses. Too rigid, she taunted, ducking under a strike. You're fighting the old way, Commander. The universe has changed. The basics win battles, he countered, finally managing to pin her against a wall. Structure, discipline, focus. And what? She whispered, her face inches from his. Do they cost you? The question hit harder than any physical blow. Kai stepped back, unsettled by both her words and his own reaction to her proximity. We have a briefing at 0800 tomorrow, he said, turning away. Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it, partner. He could hear the smile in her voice. Sweet dreams about protocol. That night, reading the mission brief in his quarters, Kai couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A simple reconnaissance of an abandoned mining colony shouldn't require their level of expertise. But orders were orders. Still, as he tried to sleep, Miri's words echoed in his mind. Everything's a game. He just couldn't shake the feeling they were both pawns rather than players. The next morning, they stood before Admiral Venn as he detailed their first assignment. Miri's playful demeanor had shifted to something more focused, though her eyes still held that mysterious glint. The Thanatos Belt, Venn explained, displaying a holographic map. Abandoned mining operations, but we've detected unusual energy signatures. Your task is simple. Investigate and report. No engagement unless absolutely necessary. Routine reconnaissance? Miri's voice carried a hint of skepticism. For a warrior of Commander Kai's caliber and a Lurian princess, seems excessive. Are you questioning Imperial assignments, Princess? Venn's tone carried a warning. Not at all, Admiral. She smiled sweetly, just appreciating the Empire's thoroughness. Kai studied the map, noting the strange patterns of the energy readings. Something about them seemed familiar, but he couldn't place why. We depart at 0600, he said, cutting off any further discussion. Standard equipment loadout? Full combat gear, Venn corrected. As a precaution. As they left the briefing room, Miri fell into step beside him. Well, partner, ready for our first dance? This isn't a game. Yes, you've mentioned. She touched his arm, her expression suddenly serious. But remember, Commander, sometimes the most dangerous games are the ones we don't know we're playing. Kai watched her walk away, her words settling like lead in his stomach. Tomorrow they'd begin their first mission together, and despite all his training, all his experience, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. He just hoped they'd both survive finding out how. The pre-dawn light cast an eerie glow across the Imperial docking bay as Kai performed his final equipment check. His fingers moved methodically over his combat suit seals, mind focused on the mission ahead. Checking your seals again? Or just trying to look busy? Miri's voice startled him. She emerged from the shadows, already suited up in sleek combat gear that hugged her curves while remaining practical. Her violet skin seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Standard procedure, Kai muttered, trying to ignore how she deliberately invaded his personal space as she circled him. And does your standard procedure include avoiding eye contact with your partner? Her fingers traced along his shoulder plates, sending an unexpected shiver down his spine. I don't bite, Commander. Unless asked nicely. Kai turned to face her, ready with a sharp retort, but the words died in his throat. She'd moved closer than he'd expected, those black eyes capturing his with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. "We have a mission," he managed. "We do." Her smile turned predatory. "And you're absolutely terrible at deflection." She stepped back, all business suddenly. "The ship's prepped. Shall we?" Their vessel, a sleek Imperial scout ship, sliced through hyperspace with quiet efficiency. Kai focused on the controls, painfully aware of Mary in the co-pilot's seat. She'd spent the first hour of their flight studying him rather than the mission details. "Your profile didn't mention how handsome you are when you're concentrating," she said casually. "You read my profile?" "Of course. Know your partner. Isn't that standard procedure?" She stretched languidly, though it left out all the interesting parts, like why such a decorated commander still works alone, or why you flinch every time someone gets too close. "I don't flinch," Kai snapped, then immediately regretted rising to her bait. "No?" In one fluid motion, she leaned across the console, her face inches from his. "Prove it." Kai held perfectly still, fighting the urge to pull back. Her scent filled his senses, something alien and sweet, like night-blooming flowers. Her eyes searched his, and for a moment he thought he saw something beyond the playful facade, something ancient and knowing. The proximity alarm shattered the moment. "Approaching Thanatos Belt," the ship's AI announced. Mary retreated to her seat, but her smile remained. "Saved by the bell, Commander?" The mining belt loomed before them, a graveyard of asteroids and abandoned stations. The energy signatures pulsed on their scanners, creating patterns that made Kai's combat instincts scream warnings. "Those readings," Miri said, suddenly serious, "they're artificial." "Agreed. Too regular." Kai frowned at the display. "Like a trap," they said in unison. Their eyes met, and this time there was no flirtation in Miri's gaze. "Well, partner, shall we spring it?" "We should report back." "To the people who sent us into an obvious trap?" She raised an eyebrow. "Sometimes, Commander, the only way to understand the game is to play it." Before Kai could respond, weapons fire erupted from behind a nearby asteroid. He threw the ship into a spiral dive, years of combat training taking over. "Multiple hostiles," he called out. "Military-grade weapons." "Not pirates, then." Miri's fingers flew over the tactical display. "Someone knew we were coming." Another blast rocked the ship. Through the chaos, Kai felt Miri's hand grip his shoulder. "Trust me?" she asked, those black eyes intense. "What? Do you trust me?" Another explosion lit up space around them. In that flash, Kai saw something in her expression, a promise, a challenge, a test. "Yes," he said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. Her smile turned fierce. "Then follow my lead, Commander. Let me show you how a Lurian princess dances in the dark." She began inputting commands, her movements swift and sure. The ship's systems responded in ways Kai had never seen before, as if the very metal was alive under her touch. "You should know," she said as energy began building around them. "This is normally a third date kind of revelation." Before Kai could ask what she meant, the universe around them erupted in violet light, and everything he thought he knew about his new partner shattered like stars going nova. Violet energy crackled around their ship, warping space itself as Miri's power surged through the vessel's systems. Kai watched in stunned silence as enemy fire simply disappeared, absorbed into the otherworldly field surrounding them. "You might want to close your mouth, Commander," Miri said, though strain showed in her voice. "You're ruining your stoic image." "What are you?" The words escaped before he could stop them. Her black eyes flickered with something ancient. "Complicated. Now shall we show our welcoming committee some manners?" The ship responded to her touch like a living thing, diving through the asteroid field with impossible precision. Enemy vessels scattered, clearly unprepared for their prey to bite back. "They're running," Kai noted, studying the tactical display. "Not for long." Miri's fingers danced across the controls. These weren't random pirates. Look at their formation, their coordination, Imperial Special Operations. Kai's blood ran cold. Why would our own forces? Questions later, she cut him off. Right now, we need to survive. Her voice softened. Trust works both ways, partner. Ready to follow my lead? He nodded, pushing aside his doubts. Together, they pursued the fleeing ships through the debris field. Miri's powers made their vessel dance between asteroids while Kai's tactical expertise guided their attacks. Within minutes, the ambush had become a rout. "We should take one alive," Kai suggested, "for questioning." Miri's smile turned predatory. "My thoughts exactly." They disabled the smallest ship's engines with surgical precision. As they moved to dock with it, Miri finally released her hold on the strange energy field. She slumped in her seat, exhausted but triumphant. "That," she breathed, "was fun." "Fun?" Kai couldn't keep the edge from his voice. "Our own people just tried to kill us. And now we get to find out why." She stood, wobbling slightly. Without thinking, Kai steadied her. Her skin felt electric under his touch. "My hero," she teased. But there was something softer in her expression. The captured ship's pilot proved more valuable than either expected. Under Miri's unique interrogation methods, which involved far more cutting remarks than actual cutting, he revealed a pattern of similar accidents befalling other paired warriors. Back in their quarters that night, Kai paced while Miri sprawled gracefully on a couch, watching him with those unnerving eyes. 23 pairs, he muttered, all elite warriors, all sent on routine missions. None returned. And we were meant to be 24. Miri's usual playfulness had vanished. The Empire fears power it can't control. Why pair us at all? Why not just eliminate targets individually? Because this way they get to maintain their image of benevolent leadership while removing potential threats. She stood, moving to block his pacing. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Kai met her gaze. "We gather evidence, build a case." While pretending to be the good little soldiers they expect. Her lips curved. "How delightfully devious, Commander. I'm beginning to think you're not as rigid as you appear. And I'm beginning to think you're not as frivolous as you pretend." Her smile faltered for just a moment. "Everyone wears masks, Kai. Some of us just make them more entertaining." Over the next few weeks, they accepted increasingly dangerous missions while secretly documenting everything. Each assignment brought new attempts on their lives, disguised as accidents or enemy action. Each time, they survived through a combination of Kai's tactical genius and Mary's mysterious abilities. Between missions, they trained together, learning each other's rhythms. Kai found himself adapting to her fluid style, while she incorporated some of his precision into her movements. Their sparring sessions became an elaborate dance of strike and counter, physical and verbal. "Your form is improving," she noted one day, dodging his attack with characteristic grace, almost elegant. "Your taunts are getting better too," he countered, finally managing to pin her. "Almost clever." She looked up at him, breathing hard. "We make quite a team, don't we?" Before he could respond, alarms blared through the facility. "Emergency deployment," the AI announced. "All active pairs report for immediate briefing." They shared a look. This wasn't scheduled. Admiral Ven's hologram greeted the assembled warriors with his usual cold efficiency. "We've detected insurgent activity in the Nephthys system. All pairs will deploy immediately for containment operations." "Sir," another warrior spoke up, "Nephthys is a dead system. There's nothing there to contain." "Are you questioning orders, Lieutenant?" Kai felt Miri tense beside him. She'd positioned herself closer than necessary, her hand brushing his arm in what appeared to be a casual gesture. "They're forcing our hand," she whispered. "This is it. They're eliminating all the pairs at once." Kai surveyed the room. 8 pairs, including them. All that remained of the program's original 24, all about to be sent to their deaths. "We have to warn them," he murmured back. "And risk exposing ourselves early?" Her fingers tightened on his arm. "We need proof, remember? This mission could be it." "Pairs, to your ships," Ven commanded. "Immediate launch." As they walked to their vessel, Miri's playful mask was firmly in place, though Kai had learned to read the tension beneath her smiles. "Ready for another dance, Commander?" "Always, Princess." Their ship lifted off with the others, formation perfect, everything by the book, until Mary's fingers found the hidden sensor they'd installed. "Imperial destroyers," she reported quietly, "waiting in ambush positions around Nephthys. They're not even being subtle anymore." "Can you get a secure channel to the other pairs?" "Working on it, but—" She stopped, eyes widening. "They're scanning us. They know." Confirmation came in the form of energy beams lancing out from supposedly friendly escort ships. 2 paired vessels erupted into flames before anyone could react. "Evasive action!" Kai barked into the general channel. "We're being targeted by our own forces." Chaos erupted as the remaining pairs scattered. Miri's powers flared, protecting them from the first volley, but Kai could see the strain it caused her. "We can't save them all," she said, voice tight with effort. "We can give them a chance." Kai took manual control, implementing a strategy he'd hoped never to use. "Broadcasting tactical data now. Anyone who wants to live, follow our lead." Only 3 ships fell into formation behind them. The others. Kai forced himself to focus on the living. "Well, partner," Miri managed through gritted teeth, her power creating a shield for their impromptu squadron, "I'd say our cover is definitely blown. Suggestions?" Her smile was fierce despite her exhaustion. "We make them regret underestimating us. Then we find somewhere very far away to figure out our next move." "Together?" She met his eyes, and for once there was no teasing in her expression. "Together." As Imperial forces closed in around them, Kai realized something had fundamentally shifted between them. They were no longer just partners by assignment, but by choice. Whatever came next, they'd face it as equals. "Hold on," he warned, plotting an impossible course through the enemy formation. "This might get rough." "Please," Miri scoffed, though her hand found his for a moment. "With you, it's never anything else." The stars blurred around them as they dove into battle, no longer pretending to be what the Empire wanted them to be. They were something new now, something neither of them had expected. They were real partners, and the Empire was about to learn exactly what that meant. The battle erupted around them like a supernova. Imperial destroyers moved to box in their small squadron, but they hadn't counted on Kai's tactical genius or Miri's extraordinary abilities working in concert. 3 ships on our 6, Kai announced, hands dancing across the controls. "Energy signatures suggest they're charging main weapons. Let them." Miri's voice carried that dangerous edge he'd come to recognize. Purple energy coursed through the ship's systems. "I have something special for them." As the Imperial ships fired, Miri didn't just deflect their assault. She caught it, held it, and with a gesture that made the air crackle, sent it screaming back at them. The resulting explosion lit up space like a newborn star. "Show off," Kai muttered, but couldn't hide his admiration. "You love it." She winced, clearly straining. "But I can't keep this up forever. We need an exit strategy." Kai studied the tactical display, mind racing. The remaining paired ships followed their lead, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Then he saw it, a pattern in the enemy formation. They're herding us, he realized, toward the Nephthys system's central star, trying to trap us between their guns and a stellar furnace. Miri laughed, though it was strained. How unimaginative. Unless, Kai's fingers flew over the calculations. How much power do you have left? She shot him a sidelong glance. Enough for one more trick. Why? Because I have a very bad idea. He outlined his plan quickly. Miri's eyes widened, then narrowed in appreciation. That's not a bad idea, Commander, she purred. That's an absolutely terrible idea. I love it. Kai opened a channel to their surviving allies. All ships, prepare for emergency maneuver on my mark, and pray your shields hold. They dove toward the star, seemingly playing into the Empire's trap. The pursuing fleet followed, already celebrating their victory. Then, at the last possible moment, now, Miri's power erupted, not as a shield this time, but as a massive gravitational pulse. Combined with their proximity to the star, it created a solar flare that caught the Imperial fleet completely off guard. The battlefield transformed into chaos. While the larger ships struggled against the stellar forces, Kai led their smaller vessels through the maelstrom, using the very trap meant to destroy them as their escape route. Status of the other ships? He asked once they were clear. Miri checked the readings. 2 made it with us. The third. She fell silent. Kai allowed himself a moment of grief for their lost allies before focusing on their next move. We need somewhere to regroup, somewhere off the Imperial grid. I might know a place. Miri's voice had lost its playful edge, becoming something more serious. But you're not going to like it. Try me. There's a Lurian sanctuary world, hidden. Even the Empire doesn't know its location. She hesitated. It's also where I learned to use my powers. Kai turned to study her. In the aftermath of battle, with her defenses down, she looked both more vulnerable and more dangerous than ever. You've been holding back, he said. It wasn't a question. We all have our secrets, Commander. Her black eyes met his. The question is, are you ready to learn them? Before he could answer, their ship's system suddenly flared with warnings. A massive vessel had just dropped out of hyperspace directly ahead of them. Imperial dreadnought, Kai breathed. How did they track us? They didn't. Miri's expression darkened. That's the Sovereign's personal vessel, my father's ship. The comm system crackled to life, displaying a stern-faced Lurian male with the same violet skin as Miri, but eyes that glowed like twin supernovas. Daughter, the Sovereign's voice filled their cabin, I see you've finally chosen a side. Mary straightened in her seat, all trace of playfulness gone. Hello, Father. Your timing is impeccable, as always. The Empire moves against us all now. He turned his gaze to Kai. Commander Zhao, your reputation precedes you, as does your recent defection. Your Majesty, Kai responded carefully, watching Miri from the corner of his eye. She sat perfectly still, like a predator about to strike. We have much to discuss, the Sovereign continued. All of us, about the Empire, about the true purpose of the pairing program, and about powers that have slept for millennia. He paused meaningfully. About why your partnership was never meant to be random. Miri's hand found Kai's arm, her touch electric. Father. Enough secrets, daughter. It's time Commander Zhao learned what he's truly part of. The Sovereign's eyes seemed to pierce through the screen. The question is, Earth Warrior, are you prepared for truths that will reshape everything you think you know? Kai felt Miri's grip tighten. Without looking away from the screen, he covered her hand with his own. The truth, he said firmly, would be a welcome change. The Sovereign's expression might have been approval, or perhaps warning. Then bring your ships in, he commanded. We have much to prepare for and very little time. As the transmission ended, Kai turned to Miri. More secrets. She met his gaze steadily. The biggest ones yet. A ghost of her usual smile touched her lips. Still trust me? Kai thought about everything they'd been through, everything they'd survived together, about how she'd challenged him, protected him, trusted him with her own secrets bit by bit. Always, he said simply. Her smile bloomed fully then, real and rare. Good, because after this, there's no going back. As they guided their small fleet toward the massive Lurian vessel, Kai couldn't shake the feeling that they were crossing a threshold. Whatever came next would change everything, not just for them, but for the entire galaxy. And somehow, with Miri at his side, he was ready to face it all. The Sovereign's ship, Star Eternal, dwarfed their small fleet. As they docked in its cavernous bay, Kai noticed details that set it apart from Imperial vessels, organic curves instead of harsh angles, surfaces that seemed to pulse with inner light. Nervous? Miri teased, though her own tension showed in the set of her shoulders. Curious, Kai corrected. Your father doesn't seem surprised by any of this. He never is. She paused at the airlock. Whatever he reveals, remember who we are now, not who we were meant to be. The Sovereign waited for them in what appeared to be a war room, star maps and tactical displays floating in the air around him. Other Lurian officials stood nearby, all watching Kai with unsettling intensity. The Empire, the Sovereign began without preamble, did not create the pairing program. They stole it from us. He gestured and a new hologram appeared, ancient glyphs that made Kai's head hurt to look at them. For millennia, the Lurian people have sought specific genetic markers across species, combinations that, when brought together, can unlock powers beyond imperial understanding. The Sovereign's eyes fixed on Kai. You, Commander, carry such markers, as does my daughter. The program was never about diplomacy, Miri added softly. It was about finding these pairs. The Empire learned of it, corrupted it, turned it into a way to eliminate threats while stealing the power they discovered. But they didn't count on real bonds forming, Kai realized, on partners actually choosing each other. Precisely. The Sovereign smiled for the first time. What they saw as a weakness became their undoing. True partnerships, freely chosen, amplify the potential exponentially. Show him, Miri said suddenly. He needs to see. Her father nodded. With a gesture, he activated something in the room's center. Energy crackled between him and a Lurian woman who stepped forward, clearly his own partner. The power that erupted made Miri's previous displays look like sparks. Reality itself seemed to bend. This is what they fear, the Sovereign explained as the demonstration ended. Not just power, but connection, understanding, true unity between peoples. And now, Miri added, moving to Kai's side, we can show them why they were right to be afraid. The next hours were a blur of revelation and preparation. The surviving paired warriors were brought up to speed. Plans were made. And through it all, Kai found himself watching Miri, seeing her now not just as his flirtatious partner, but as something far more significant. You knew, he said later, when they finally had a moment alone. From the beginning. I knew you were special, she corrected, stepping close. The rest, that was all us. Training took on new intensity as they learned to properly channel their combined power. Each success brought them closer, their connection deepening beyond mere partnership. The Empire didn't give them long to prepare. A massive fleet appeared at the edge of Lurian space, nearly every ship in the Imperial Armada. They're desperate, Kai noted from their new command position, throwing everything at us. Good, Miri's eyes gleamed. Let's show them why that was a mistake. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Imperial ships faced not just conventional weapons, but power they couldn't comprehend. Paired warriors, now fighting at their full potential, turned the tide of space itself against their former masters. At the heart of it all, Kai and Miri moved as one. Their ship became a focal point of impossible energy, their combined strength greater than even the Sovereign had predicted. Where Imperial forces brought overwhelming numbers, they brought understanding. Where the Empire sought to divide, they unified. In the end, it wasn't even close. The Imperial fleet retreated in disarray, their carefully constructed power structure shattered. In the aftermath, as Allied ships began the process of securing peace, Kai found Miri staring out at the stars. "Having second thoughts?" he asked. She turned, and the smile she gave him held none of her usual masks. "About ending a corrupt empire? No, about us." She stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "Never. Even though none of this was really our choice." "Wasn't it?" She reached up, touching his face. "They chose our pairing, yes, but every step after that, every fight, every secret shared, every moment, that was all us." Kai caught her hand, finally allowing himself to feel everything he'd been holding back. "And now?" "Now," she grinned, that familiar mischief returning to her eyes. "We get to choose everything else. Together." "Together," he agreed, and pulled her into a kiss that had been building since that first meeting in the Hall of Oaths. Above them, the stars seemed to pulse with new possibility. The Empire had sought to control power through division and fear. Instead, they'd created something far greater, partnerships that transcended their original purpose, connections that would reshape the galaxy. As Kai held Miri close, he realized that sometimes the best victories aren't won through force or strategy, but through trust, through choosing to stand together, no matter the odds, through finding someone who makes you stronger than you ever thought possible. "So," Miri murmured against his lips, "ready for our next adventure?" Kai smiled. With her, every moment was an adventure. Always. "Well, well, well. Look who made it to the end. I see you there, scrolling through with that little smile on your face. Was it the violet-skinned princess that kept you reading? Or perhaps our stoic commander's gradually crumbling facade? You know what's funny? Some might say this is just another space story with powers and princesses and epic battles. But between you and me, I think we all know why we really stick around for these tales. It's that delicious tension, those moments where everything could go terribly wrong or wonderfully right, and that satisfying feeling when two people who absolutely should not work together end up being exactly what each other needed. To everyone who just snorted at the romantic bits while pretending they were here for the space battles, I see you too, and I respect your commitment to maintaining your cool exterior. Very Kai-like of you. And to those who cheered when Miri finally got her man while saving the galaxy because multitasking is important, you're my kind of people. Never change. Thanks for joining me on this little detour through the stars. Your time is precious and you chose to spend it here with these characters. That's pretty special if you ask me.